All right, so we're back. So we've talked about how do I know how many triangles there are that are possible. So let's do a couple of examples. If you look at this, okay, this is in your notebook, and you'll see for a triangle with A is 15, B is 25, and A is 85, find the remaining side and angles. Okay, so here's the picture, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this picture, and we're going to bring it over into Smart Notebook so we can work with it, and I'm going to show you what I just talked to you about in terms of the height. Okay, so imagine this is my triangle. That means that A is, the given A value is 15, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find the height. Okay, and the height, you remember, we're going to kind of drop a perpendicular instead of, and we're going to go, the height is B sine A. All right, that's the formula for it. So the height is going to be 25 sine 85. Okay, and we're going to get our calculator out and we're going to figure out what that is. So I go to my calculator here, if it lets me. There we go. And I'm going to go 85, take the sine of that, and I'm going to multiply it by 25. Okay, and I get 24.9. So the height is 24.9. So what I have to do is I have to compare the height to the A value that I was given. So the A value and the height we need to fill in, is it greater than, less than, or equal to? And in this case, the height is greater than A. It's bigger than A. So if we look over here, back to what we're talking about, if the height's bigger than A, there's no solution. There's not an actual triangle. So this is actually not possible. So we say not possible. It doesn't work. All right, and we kind of get angry. So then what happens if there's more than one solution, or how do we know what happens if there's more than one solution? So imagine for a second that we get this one. Let's copy this one over. And again, we're just working through your notebook so you can kind of follow along. But in this case, we're going to find our height. Okay, it's B sine A. So B is 12 and A is 42. So we go 12 sine 42. And we figure out what our height is. So go to my calculator. I'm going to go 42 sine of that and then multiply by 12. And it gives me 8. All right. I'm going to say meters. I'm going to say these are meters. Okay. So if that is the case, then it's possible, since h is less than a, right? Because our given a value was 22 meters. I didn't write that down at the beginning. It's possible that there's two solutions. It doesn't always imply there's two solutions, though, because if you look at this triangle, I can draw this triangle as is. All right, we already have this triangle. If I draw it the way it is, it looks pretty reasonable, right? It looks like a nice triangle. We could find that. But if I draw it like this is still 42, but what happens is I take the 22 and I swing it in. It's bent in instead of out. All right, so if you kind of think of this as the perpendicular, this is my perpendicular now, and instead of swinging this out that way, I've swung it in. Okay, what happens then is this side is 12, okay, and this side is 22. Sorry, if I think, let me just relabel this. That's A, this is B up here, right? And this is C. So if I label it like that, then I have to make sure that this angle is a possible angle. And if you look back at the picture, the way they've drawn it in your notebook, okay, which is back here, You'll notice that this is they've just drawn it, they've rotated it, okay? So it just makes it easier to see. But the biggest angle has to be across from the biggest side, okay? So in other words, if it's 42 degrees, that has to be across from 22. So there's a problem with the obtuse angle of B, all right? The problem is it can't be obtuse, because if it's bigger than 42, that side can't be bigger than this side. You see what I mean? Like, you can visually see it, that can't be 12 if this is 22. This has to be bigger. So sometimes after we've checked, there's two possibilities, but one of the possibilities doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't work. So we say that this is not possible. Well, actually, this one in the way I've drawn it here, so I've rotated it around. But there's a possible two solutions, but sometimes there's only one answer that makes sense, okay? And I'll show you the actual calculation. If you set up the calculation, you would go sine A, which is sine 42, over 22, and you would say it's equal to sine B over 12, right? If you look at your sine A over 22 is sine B over 12. We would say, okay, that means that sine B is 12 sine 42 over 22. So we get sine B equals, and then I got to do my calculation. So I go 42, I hit sine, then I multiply that by 12, then I divide that by 22, and I get 0.36498. So 0.36498. Okay, and so I take the arc sine of that, and I realize that there's other decimal places there, but that's my angle. So I go, okay, what is that? So I take the arc sine. So I think I just have to hit that and that. And I get 21.4 degrees. Okay? So B is 21.4 degrees. Or the other possible solution is that it's 180 minus 21.4 degrees. Okay? And if I do that, I go 180 minus 21.4, I get 158.6. Okay? Now, that leaves me with two triangles in the triangle, right? So I need the third one. So if I do two of them, right now I have angle A is 42 degrees, and angle B is 21.4 degrees. So that means angle C is going to be 180 minus those two. So minus 42 minus 21.4. And I can figure out what that is. And I go 180 minus 42 minus 21.4, and I say that's 116.6. And so that works, and I'm fine, I'm happy. Here, I've got A is 42, and I've got B is 158.6. And I say that means that C is 180 minus 158.6 minus 42. So I go, okay, C is then, I move this over so you can see it, 180 minus 158.6 minus 42, and I get negative 20.6. Is that possible? We say, nope, we can't have a negative angle. So there still is only one solution, even though it's possible that there's two. So we test this first. Okay, we go back up here and we test this. We say, is H less than A? Yes. So there's possible two solutions. And then we actually solve it out, and we see that one of them doesn't really work. Okay. So it's possible there's two, but there's not always, that doesn't necessarily imply there is two. So for the ambiguous case, what we have to do is we start with this little calculation, and we say if H is greater than A, it doesn't work. It's not possible. But if H is less than A, it's possible there's two solutions. It's just that one may or may not work. Okay, so finally, if you look in your workbook, there's a third. You notice that we've gone through one solution. So this one says two solutions. So here's the information it gives me. Right, and again, taking the triangle, it gives me two sides and an angle. It's still side-side angle, so I know that it has to be ambiguous case, because ambiguous case is side-side angle. It's thinking here. Thinking a little too hard, but if you look at, it's 20.5, angle A is 20.5, A is 12, and B is 31. Let's see if it, now it's not letting me go back. There we go, still thinking. Paste. Here we go. Maybe. No. Okay. Maybe. No. Still thinking. It's going to let me write? No. Just bear with me here. Basically, what we're looking for every time is the same. We're going to go h equals b sine a. We're going to test a to see if it's bigger than h. If it is, there's two solutions. If it's less than h, and then there's no solutions. If it's equal to a, then there's one solution. And once we determine that there's two solutions possible, then we have to just try to solve for both of them. And if they work, great. If they run into something that doesn't make sense, we say, sorry, it doesn't make sense. All right. This is taking a long time. So maybe I can write right on this. We'll see what happens when I try this. Let's go to pens. And does it let me write? No. Oh, there we go. It's not going to let me write. Well, we'll stop the video there, and I'll come back and finish it because it's not working.